All right, we are live. Welcome, everybody, to the Gunner Technology Livestream, a weekly tech talk for non-techies and techies alike. I'm your host, Derry Merkins. With me is CEO of Gunner Technology, Cody Swan. What's going on, Cody?
Not much. Just getting over this last bit of a cold and gonna power through. Starting tomorrow, I'm gonna be back to normal. I'm telling myself I'm over.
I mean, this is like it sucks you got sick, but this is the best time of year, other than Christmas and possibly the start of college football season. Spring, Lent. You got spring baseball coming around.
That's right.
I mean, it's just glorious. The weather's getting better. They actually are building a stadium right next to my house. I don't know if I told you that, a minor league baseball stadium. So I'll be there nightly.
Huge.
Isn't that huge? Just walk 10-minute walk to see a ball game at night.
That is huge. Yeah, especially because they'll have like dollar drink night and all those awesome promos. It's the best. It's the best.
Yeah, and like they do all those like weird gags. Like they have like roller derby night.
Right.
And you win like the weirdest swag too. I'm so pumped. I can't wait.
Yeah, that's a big development.
I think it's actually the Mets farm team too, so I might get to see Tim Tebow.
Well, that's interesting because like the Mets are here, like the Mets spring training right down the road. So that's interesting.
So we should become Mets scouts.
Yeah, we should. We'll
keep tabs on them. We
can rate the players on a peanut scale.
And nobody will care. 3.5 peanuts out of 10. So I guess we can dive into the episode this week. We have our Country Store giveaway. Country Store is a lifestyle brand for anyone who loves the outdoors. You can visit them at countrystoreoutfitters.com. The winner this week is Jennifer M. from Charleston, South Carolina. So Jen, you've got a Country Store hat heading your way, along with copies of our ebooks, which our Best of 2018 ebook just dropped this past week. So you'll get that one hot off the presses. And while you're on our Facebook page, sign up for the Country Store giveaway if you didn't win this week. Go ahead and answer our question of the week, which I remembered to look up this week. Last week's that is huge. Last week's question of the week was, have you bought a computer within the past 3 years? And shockingly, it was 50-50. Now, I don't know if that's folks buying computers for themselves or maybe buying computers for others.
There's always a loophole.
Yes, but at least half of the respondents had bought a computer in the past 3 years, which is, I guess, good news for the folks at Apple.
Yeah, that's they should be taking heart in that. I'm shocked by that, actually.
And I assume that they are Apple computers because most of the folks that we talk to are Apple users.
Right. I mean, come on. Although, you know what's funny is that the Microsoft is like undergoing a resurgence with this Surface thing. They're really kicking butt with these Surfaces. So
they do have good publicity. They're on the sidelines and mentioned frequently at every NFL game. Like they're constantly showing folks on their Surface tablets.
Branding works, marketing works.
It really does. Yeah, if something can get people to buy Microsoft devices, then I mean marketing works.
Yeah.
Although I guess I will say too that gamers are still almost entirely Windows. So
true.
The gaming community may be propping Microsoft up entirely at this point.
And that has not changed. That has always been that way.
Yeah, and I think it is because the devices are so extensible. Because gamers love to mod their devices. So totally. To be able to add more memory, change the graphics card, overclock the CPU, that kind of stuff that you just can't do really on a Mac. Gamers are all about that kind of stuff. But the question of the week next week, which I saw in an article that Gmail's autocomplete, no, is it called autocomplete? Auto respond. See, now I should have the Facebook page pulled up. It's called auto compose. I can't think of the name of it, but it's the functionality where you start typing a sentence in Gmail and it basically finishes the sentence for you.
Yeah, I'm trying to find
based on what you've said before.
Smart compose.
That's it exactly. Yeah. So the question of the week this week is, do you use Smart Compose in Gmail? And I also included the automated reply functionality where if you're in the app and somebody says, here's the document you requested, there's 3 buttons at the bottom and it'll be like, sounds good, exclamation point, or thanks a lot, exclamation point, or no, period. So the question of the week is, do you use those pieces of functionality? And I know you do.
I definitely use Smart Compose. I don't use the auto reply.
I use the auto reply humorously. That's the only way I use it.
I I don't know. I'd never, probably because I forget to turn it off. And I'm always connected anyway. So like I'm never really away. Like if I'm away, it's because I'm like sleeping.
See, I don't use it because I don't like being told what I should say. I
Right.
don't like
Right.
some robot telling me what the end of my sentence should be.
Right.
But anyways, hop on our Facebook page, answer that question of the week, and sign up for the Credit Share giveaway. But we'll go ahead and dive into the topic of the week this week, part 9 of our Biz Dev series. And the topic is actually, I would say, one of the more complicated components of any business really is valuing your services.
Oh man, that's a tough one. It's always in the works, man. It's always in the works because it's such a. In theory, it should be so simple. It should be what people are willing to pay for it, but
Yeah.
it gets a lot more complicated than that.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the place to start is that it's like so many things, a learning process, and you're not going to hit a home run out of the gate and perfectly price your services. And I would say when you're just starting off, more times than less, you're underpricing yourself.
Yeah, it's tough, and it's weird because like it really is. So our what we try to do is we try to offer a standard price. Start off at, and again, this is a service-based model. Product models are totally different, but like you want to have a variable pricing model. At the same time, you don't want to come off as being negotiable. Like, so this is where discounts come in. So you have a price for a t-shirt, it's $20 or whatever. And so some people will buy that t-shirt at $20, and some people will buy it with like a free shipping discount, and some people will buy it with like a 20% off coupon, or some people will buy it if you give them a deal if they buy another shirt. So you basically don't want to change the price of the shirt, but you want to be able to add various discounts that will be attractive to people who don't want to buy the shirt without a discount.
Right. And what's the best way, other than just trial and error, to figure out what those discounts are? I mean, are there good resources to figure out what's worked in the past?
A lot of it is competitor research. See what your competitors are doing. That's the best way to start, is look at that and know that when you're starting out, they have added value. Your competitors who've been around for a while have brand value added to them. So you mostly have to undercut your competitors if it's a straight kind of like, if it's a straight comparison. If you add more value than your competitors, you don't necessarily need to cut the initial cost. But if you're just starting out and you're selling the same t-shirt, your brand has very little value. And so you're going to have to kind of undercut them to make a difference and get people to buy yours that normally wouldn't.
And as far as BizDev goes, and you're talking about sort of brand value, are you constantly updating that pricing model based on what you're hearing back from your marketing, from your research, determining sort of what the appreciation of your company is in the public at large?
So, and again, this is where the art comes into it. I would highly recommend that you don't change your price, you change your discount model. And again, going back to what we do, it's like our services are standard. It's $200 an hour for a senior developer. It's $100 an hour for a junior developer. Like, it's pretty standard. However, no one, or very rarely does anyone ever buy our services hourly. We're more like a project-based or a retainer-based company. So at the same time, we don't lower our hourly rate. We add discounts for project rate, for retainers, for loyalty,
referral bonuses.
Yeah, referral bonuses, equity. So I would not recommend lowering your price. I would recommend increasing your discounts is what I would recommend.
And in terms of BizDev, again, how are you sort of positioning that in terms of a sales pitch? How are you sort of getting that point across that it makes more sense to spec stuff out in a project-based model with discounts as opposed to somebody just wants a price?
Yeah, so transparency is the big one. And so once you kind of, again, we've talked about this in the show before, when there's an idea, when there's like I want to build a Facebook for doctors. It's like, I can't put a price on that. I literally cannot put a price on that. Even if you had a gun to my head, I could not put a price to that. That is just an idea. There is no execution involved there. There is no spec. There is no scope. There's nothing. I cannot put a price on that. Somewhere between $20,000 and $200 million. That's my price. And so, but once you're able to actually break it down into features, for this Facebook for doctors, I want to be able to list what practice I do. I want to be able to list what my location. I want to be able to post customer testimonials, all these features. Once you have that, then I can start putting an effort level on each of those requests. I can say, well, that's an easy request. And we go on a scale of basically 1 to 64 or 0 to 64. And I can say, oh, that's pretty easy. That's a 4. Or I can say, oh man, that's difficult. That's a 64. And so once we have that list of features and have an effort level associated with each feature, we have a grand total of effort points. And we can put a price tag. We do put a price tag on those effort points. So that's where the transparency comes in. Basically, okay, you have this many effort points. Great. We put it into a cost calculator, which we share with every one of our clients, and they can see right there. This is what happens when you put in 1,000 effort points. And then it's always a matter of like, well, you know what, that feature that was 64 points, we don't really need to do that right up front. And so they start taking stuff out. Like they take out the big ticket items to get the price down. And that's how they get the price down is a number of things. They get the price down by actually focusing on what they need for the initial product. Again, taking out the big ticket items, sending us referrals, giving us equity in the project, or changing the pricing or the invoice model. So our base invoice model is a net 30 invoice model. But if you take like a 50-50 model where you're paying a deposit upon start and the rest upon completion, we give you a big discount for that as well. So it's a lot like when you go to buy a car, and they kind of like, the difference is when you go to buy a car, the salesman will invent discounts on the fly.
Right.
With us, you can actually see what the discounts are available to you and what you have to do to earn these discounts or get these discounts. So it's basically kind of like if you took the car model, but made it completely transparent.
I was going to say, for folks who are interested in seeing how stuff actually gets spec'd out and how points are assigned, check out our entrepreneur series that we just did, the most recent series before this one. And I was also going to mention too, in terms of transparency and adjusting the pricing model, you can also change how quickly the project needs to be completed and how, which affects how many people you need working on the project at any given time. So you're talking about the car model. If you have a custom car being built, maybe you have 10 people working on it, it gets done in a month, or you can have one person and it takes a year. The pricing is going to be different because you're not taking 10 resources at once. You're just taking one person for the course of that year.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I can't believe I forgot that. But yeah, time to market is a big one because it affects how many resources we put on the project. So if you're willing to say, I can wait 10 months to have this done, we can get the price pretty darn low because we can do a lot in 10 months. But if you're like, I need this in a month, well, we're going to have to throw a ton of resources at it and your price is going to go up.
Yep. And how do you get that point across that in terms of valuing your services with either prospects or clients who are coming on board? I guess what I'm trying to say is, how do you find that sweet spot with them? How do you sort of work out what makes sense for both of you guys?
Well, a lot of it is, again, them looking at the price tag and them saying, I mean, it's when there's no consequences, it's easy to say, I need this in a month and I need all of these features complete. But when you actually can see what those demands mean, not just a nebulous, well, that's going to be more expensive, but an actual concrete, because again, we give them access to our cost calculator. So I was doing one for a client right when we started this. So like the things they'll fill in is how many resources they want, meaning how quickly do they want this done,
right?
And then what are the total effort points involved, and so they can actually see the consequences of saying, okay, I'm going to remove this feature, and I'm going to say I don't need this done that quickly. And so then when you actually can put a price on like actually your demands, then you can say, okay, you know what, I really don't need this huge feature that's going to it's going to cost, you know, a bit half of the entire budget. And
Yep.
you know what? I really don't need it done in a month. It's okay if it's done in 2 months kind of thing.
Yep.
So when they can actually see their options and the price associated with each, then that is how you kind of negotiate back and forth the sweet spot. And the other thing we have, which is kind of like a catch-all at the end of it, is we have the ability. Again, this is kind of where our like kind of not our leverage, but our leeway comes in. Is the fact that we have a number of sources where we can go and we can try to raise funding mainly from our partners at AWS, and we can apply it to the project. So, for example, if we reach a point where we come up with a cost and say it's, you know, $50,000, and the client's like, oh man, that is just way too expensive. Well, we can say, okay, well, what we can do is, if you'll help us put together like a proposal, we can take this to our partners at AWS, and AWS will want your business through us. They'll want your business through us because that means they're getting paid. So they will help us launch your product. And so we can take it to them with your proposal and say, here's what we want to do. We need $20,000 in credits to get it off the ground. Now, these $20,000 in credits, they're not just cash money. They go to Gunner, us, to help fund our larger account, which has a lot of big accounts on them. So we put that $20,000 to our existing client infrastructure, and then we then pass that savings on to the client. So from that went from being a $50,000 project to a $30,000 project in light of the client, because we don't care. We're going to use that $20,000 regardless. So if we can take that off of our AWS bill, we'll happily pass that on to the client.
Absolutely, yeah. We have a question here, and I'm not sure I fully understand what he's getting at, but he's asking, valuing your services. How does valuing your services affect the development team? So I think it's more along the lines of what I imagine, and this often happens, is that the biz dev side sells something for far cheaper than it's actually going to cost to build. And I guess how you get around that in our case is you are explicit with your pricing, and you know, if you have sort of the flat rate model that we have of $100 or $200 an hour, you're not going to be underbidding a project because it's going to take however long it takes at that price.
Right. And your biz dev team shouldn't. You should never get into the situation where we've talked about before, where you're promising something that you can't deliver. So these effort points that we're talking about, these are coming directly from your biz dev team, your product dev team. You're not making these up. You're sitting down with your developers and you're saying, here's what we got. The biz dev team is saying, here's what we got. Here's the features that I was able to extract from the client for this project. I need you guys to go through and put an effort point level on these issues. Right. And these requests. So in that case, there's no surprises. If a developer misestimated an effort point level, that's on them. They need to get better at estimating. And again, the feature should be so small that even if you whiff on an estimate, it's not that big of a whiff. So we're not like we only go as high as 64. And even when we get to 64, we're going to try to break that down into smaller items, if at all possible. So we don't want someone to kind of whiff on an estimation, because we don't want, again, I think the question was getting at, we don't want the developers, the engineers, to feel like they're being asked to do something they didn't agree to.
What sort of pushback do you get with this method of valuing your services from prospects?
Well, again, they want to negotiate, and we're willing to negotiate, but within our formula. We can't start saying, okay, yeah, got it. We'll whack off our hourly rate. We'll take we'll take $10 off our hourly rate.
Right.
Because then you're actually treating clients differently. And the thing that's weird is, all our long-term clients totally get this. It's always our new clients who kind of struggle with this to understand. But the thing is, and I've said this a million times, we make almost no money on the front end. And we talked about this in the last series. So our first contract, our first project with a new client, we'll be lucky to break even, because we never make any money on that front end. The money we make is from when the project takes off and it becomes huge and we start making a lot of money. Everyone starts making a lot of money. That's when we make a lot of money. We're a very high risk, high reward company.
Mhm.
And we have some long-term clients that offset a lot of that risk. But when we're taking on new clients, it's always high risk, high reward. So we're going to do everything we can to not cut you off at the knees. We want you to get that first project underway because we're not going to make any money unless there's a second project, a third project, a fourth project, which comes from that initial project growing. So we're going to work with you to get something within your budget that will lead to more money. So for example, we want to figure out what that MVP is that you can go show to your friends and family or an angel investor to get more money, because if you get more money, we get more money. So we're going to try to do whatever we can, work within the parameters that we're given to get you within the MVP. And so we're not just like engineers, right? We're like business analysts. So we're going to say something like, hey, 30% of this project is coming from these 3 tickets. Do you think these 3 tickets are really necessary to get you to MVP status? Because if we can just hold off on that and wait to build those until you're funded, we can get this project done within your budget. But with those three feature requests you're asking, we cannot squeeze this in within your budget.
Yeah, and I think in terms of valuing your services, and what's somewhat unique about the way that we do things is that that's sort of, it's an all-inclusive package, kind of. Like we provide the project management capabilities that a lot of companies don't have. I mean, a lot of companies would never even think of splitting everything out into user stories, assigning effort points to all these, prioritizing stuff for an MVP, you know, determining how to get the best avenue for funding, whether it's angel investing or, you know, friends and family round or something like that. So it's kind of a cool pitch that we have, that we're also providing all of these sort of all these services sort of pro bono that's included, because it both makes our lives easier and makes it more likely that the company will have long-term success, that the partner will have long-term success, that is.
Yeah, exactly. And kind of bleeding into our last episode, it's important when you're pricing your services or product that you think in terms of customer lifetime value instead of transactional. So transactional is kind of like, I'll price this to maximize this transaction. But that level of thinking only takes into account that there's only going to be ever one transaction with a client. There's a whole, in product services and product marketing rather, there's a whole category of products called loss leaders, which are products that are designed to be sold at a break even or even at a loss in order to kind of be able to market and upsell down the road to that client. So
like the rotisserie chicken at Costco.
Exactly. That's right.
I think it's the biggest seller, and they make absolutely $0 on it. But it gets people in the door to buy rotisserie chickens, and they buy like 8 other things that they didn't need.
Exactly. Publix does that around here. They have a deli with subs now, and they figured it out. They always put their subs on sale now. Now note at their base price they're making money, but you almost never find their subs at base price. They're almost always on sale. And so they get you in the door to go get a sub, but who's going to go into Publix and pick up a sub and leave without buying something else?
Right, like, exactly.
No one. So that it's always thinking about, don't think of this as a transactional relationship. Think about this as a long-term, all-inclusive relationship. So don't get blind.
Tunnel vision.
Tunnel vision. Thank you. Don't get tunnel vision on a single product, a single service. Think about this as like how long this is going to last, and an entire relationship that's going to span numerous transactions, not just one.
Yeah, that's a really important point, and maybe a good place to end it. But do you have any final thoughts on valuing your services you want to throw in there?
Yeah, it's just also people get afraid of raising their prices, and you shouldn't. Like, if again, I've said you don't want to change your price too often. You want to come up with a base level price and then discounts off of that. But you can move it. You can move the base price. You just can't do it too often. And you shouldn't be scared to raise it, especially if you're getting better at what you do. Or for example, let's say you're selling products. Let's say you're selling the t-shirts. Take the t-shirts, for example, and you have that base price of $20. Well, then let's say you decide that you want to actually do all of your production stateside. Meaning you're not, most clothing products are produced outside the United States, Vietnam, India, China, all over the place, but not here. But let's say your customers are very patriotic and you want to kind of add more value to them, and you think you can get a better product within the United States. So you're going to produce everything stateside. Now your cost goes up, but because your cost goes up, that is not a good reason to raise prices. That's actually on you. But if you're adding value to your clientele who values products made in the United States, you have added value, you should raise that price.
Well, hopefully that's helpful for folks in terms of valuing their services. It's definitely one of the trickier aspects of biz dev and business in general. But I think this episode is really good in terms of providing some good strategies for getting better at valuing your services. But that's going to do it for this week's episode of the Gunner Technology Livestream. Make sure to tune in next Thursday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time for the next episode. Hop on our Facebook page and sign up for the Country Store giveaway. Country Store is a lifestyle brand for anyone who loves the outdoors. You can visit them at countrystoreoutfitters.com. And while you're on our Facebook page, answer our question of the week, which this week is, do you use Smart Compose? It's called Smart Compose, right?
Smart Compose.
Smart Compose and automated replies on Gmail. So hop on our Facebook page, answer that question. The blog for this episode will be up at gunnertech.com. The podcast will be available on iTunes. Our ebooks, including our Best 2018 ebook, are available on Barnes & Noble, Amazon, iBooks, Kobo, and anywhere else ebooks are sold. That's going to do it for this week's episode. Make sure to tune in next Thursday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time for the next episode of the Gunner Technology Livestream. I'm Derry. That's Cody. We'll see you next week.